policy will continue to support the economy and respond to future risks in line with our price stability mandate. And yes, we will continuously monitor the side effects of our policies. But it is clear that monetary policy could achieve its goal much faster and with much fewer side effects if other policies were also supporting growth. One key element here is euro area fiscal policy, which is not just about the aggregate stance of public spending, but also about the composition of public spending. Investment is a particularly important part of the response to today's challenges, because it is both today's demands and tomorrow's supply. And of course, investments need to be country-specific. But there is today a cross-cutting case for investment in a common future that is more productive, more digital, and certainly greener. If we look at public investment in the euro area, it remains some way below its pre-crisis level. And the share of productive expenditure in total primary expenditure, which is a combination of infrastructure, research and development and education, it has also dropped in nearly all euro area economies since the crisis, added to which new investment needs arise. So both national policies and European programs like InvestEU have a role to play. And the BIC, the Budgetary Instrument for Convergence and Competitiveness, is also a good start. This tool acknowledges that even when governments need to consolidate their finances, we collectively have a common interest in maintaining a sufficient level of public investment. But a stronger domestic economy also rests on higher business investment. And for that, raising productivity is equally important. Now, firms to invest, they need to be confident in future growth. Though all advanced economies are facing a growth challenge, the euro area has been slower to embrace innovation and capitalize on the digital age, much more so than others like the United States. This is also reflected in differences in total factor productivity, which has risen by only half as much in the euro area as it has in the United States since 2000. Now, how do we close that gap? How do we not only catch up, but overcome? That should be the ambition. Well, we have a very potent tool at our disposal. In the business sector, in the corporate world, you often call it scale. Bring it back here. It means empowering the internal market. Completing the digital single market. Completing the capital markets union, completing the single market in services can actually provide the impetus Europe needs to launch new and innovative firms and to spread new technologies faster around the union. These are building blocks. They're not revolutionary ideas. They're not new committees, new layers of this, that, or the other. But this is the European economy of the future. And the projected gains from that are significant. New studies find that the full implementation of the Services Directive would lead to gains in the order of 380 billion euros. Completing the digital single market would yield annual benefits in the range of 170 billion euros. Added to which, this growth dividend would actually help close the circle with public investment by ensuring that public debt is sustainable. Finally, empowering our internal market also means completing our economic and monetary union. The design of EMU, and in particular the balance between risk reduction and risk sharing, is closely linked to the propensity to either save or spend, or both. On the one hand, a monetary union focused too much on risk sharing is likely to produce moral hazard and too little saving, which harms the Union as a whole. But on the other hand, prioritizing risk reduction alone is likely to lead to the opposite problem: excess saving and fragile growth as countries are forced to self-insure by running persistent surpluses, in addition to all the benefits that, President, you have mentioned earlier. Now, the solution to that famous paradox of thrift is actually institution, or at least requires institution. Good institutions exist to ensure that people are not forced into actions that are rational at the individual level, but self-defeating collectively. So completing the EMU is about finding the right balance, the right trade-off. Enough protection against moral hazard to discourage undersaving, but enough mutual insurance to prevent oversaving. And in this way, we could tap into new sources of growth that would otherwise be suppressed. And in the spirit of this conference, that would truly represent a new approach to Europe. Time to conclude. We face a global environment that is marked by uncertainty, but I believe that if we approach this challenge in the right way, it can also be a moment of opportunity. We have a unique possibility to respond to a changing and challenging world by investing in our future, strengthening our common institutions, and empowering the world's second largest economy. And all of this would be game changer, not just at home, but in the world. It does require us to think differently about Europe. It will require political courage for politicians. It will also certainly not be easy. But as Saint Francis of Assisi would have said, start by doing what is necessary, then do what's possible, and suddenly you are doing the impossible, and the dream comes through. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madame Lagarde. I'm delighted now to kick off the panel section of today's gathering. The first of